Pierre à ce mec-là. Et je vais convier à nos côtés deux personnes très importantes qui vont animer avec moi cette discussion. Éric Gauthier. Pierre Éric Gauthier, je vais le présenter après. Jeune, hein, encore jeune, Éric. Jeune directeur de la photo, talentueux, je vais dire 2-3 mots après, et Olivier Assayas, cinéaste. Alors, tout d'abord dire que la Cinémathèque aime beaucoup faire ce genre de programmation. C'est relativement récent, mais c'est quelque chose qui maintenant s'installe et continuera de s'installer à la Cinémathèque, de rendre hommage à des directeurs de la photo. Nous avons choisi Michael Ballhaus. Ce succès s'explique par le fait que les films qu'a éclairé Michael Ballhaus sont des films qui nous ont influencés, qui nous ont formés, avec lesquels on a grandi, surtout les plus jeunes d'entre vous, mais moi-même, qui suis maintenant un vétéran. Voilà, on a grandi avec ces films.
It was a very important moment in my life. I was 18 years old. I grew up in a theater. My parents had a theater company, and I grew up basically on stage. And I loved actors and I loved acting. And I started taking pictures when I was 15, and I loved photography. When I came to the set of Lola and Tess with Max Ophüls, who was friends of my parents, that was the only chance I got to see this. It was for me the combination of acting or actors and taking pictures. All of a sudden the pictures started moving, and then I saw this fascinating set. The people who know this film, La Mantis, know that there are these big circus scenes. And I was there when they shot these incredible circus scenes. And my colleague Christian Matras was talking to the gaffer, and no one spoke the other language, but they could understand each other. And it was magical. It was absolutely magical. And when I then saw them...
Bon, je vais faire vite.
Went straight forward, and it was my only goal to really become a cinematographer. And it did a couple of steps, but I was always having this in mind, that this is what I want to do.
Et donc, ça a été vraiment...
And so on my set, I always tried to talk to my team, to my crew, that the most important thing that happens on film is what happens in front of the camera. And if they don't respect the actors and show them that they love them, then they cannot really open up. So if there is noise, if there is not concentration, they cannot work. They should be able to work in this kind of loving, concentrated situation. We talked about 2 hours. I loved him from the first one because I knew his movies. I loved his movies very, very much. And so I went to Israel to look at the location and all that, and I was in heaven. 3 weeks later, the studio pulled the plug, and the movie was off. And I fell from heaven to hell, and thought, okay, that was it. I will never work with this guy again. But it was the luckiest moment in my life, because I might have not been able to do a movie for 20 million, because I wasn't ready for that. So then when I started doing After Hours with him, I was ready for a low-budget movie to tell Marty what you can do in 40 nights with 600 shots. I think he offered me the job because the producers were asking him, who would you hire to do a movie in 4 nights with 600 shots? And he knew my work that I've done with Fassbinder. He knows like every movie. And he said, this might be the guy who has done low-budget movies, and he might be the guy who could do it. And when I then talked to him about it, I said, look Marty, I found out that we have to do 16 shots every night. I've done it, can you do it? And he said, let's try together. And I never forget the first shot we did in a night in downtown New York. And we set up the shot, and he walked to his trailer, which was like 200 feet away, and by the time he arrived, the first AD came and said, Michael is ready. So from that moment on, he never went back to his trailer. He just stayed on the set, and we did 16 shots every night, and it was a miracle.
Oh, come on. We're both adults. Why don't you just let me in?
You really want to go inside?
Yes, you know, it's very important. I've got people in there. They're expecting me. Why don't you just let me in?
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Yes, I could comment a lot on that. What was so fascinating for me to start with one of my most respected directors in the States, Martin Scorsese, and get the chance to do something with him that maybe an American cinematographer couldn't have done that this way, because I was very daring. I was shooting most of the movies with like wide open stop. We shot like with a 1.8. My focus puller was dying sometimes, but he was in focus most of the time. He was very good at that. But another DP wouldn't have done that maybe, because to go into that risk. And that was the only way to finish this movie in such a short time. I couldn't do major lighting. We didn't have the lights. Sometimes I had like a 2K on a roof that gives you a little glance in the asphalt. And so this way, and sometimes it was just available light, just in the cab was very little light and all that. So it was very different, and that was great for me, because then people looked at this movie and saw, Martin Scorsese had done a movie for 4 million and it was successful. Who did it? And that was my chance, and then I got a lot of phone calls. That was great. For me, my job was here to serve. My job was for me not the most important thing in a movie. I think the most important thing for me was the actors in front of the camera. And the more time you give a director to work with them, the better it could be. So that was also for the directors something that they liked for sure, that they had a little more time. I know that there are a lot of DPs in the world that are doing much better work. Especially some American DPs are just fantastic. I admire their work, but they're very slow. Sometimes that is not so great for the directors. That was maybe one thing that was important that people knew about, that I was not the center of the universe. The next movie I did with Scorsese was much different. Color of Money had better stops, but for me the main thing was that I always wanted to be prepared, especially with Scorsese. It was easy to be prepared because he gave you a shot list. He knew exactly what he wanted, and if if a director knows what he wants, I can be prepared to light it and to prepare for it. And that helps always a lot. Later, when I worked with other directors who were not as prepared, I had to do the preparation myself and then suggest to them what I would like to do. I still try to work fast, but sometimes I also need time to light a set and spend some time. But the more, the bigger the budget is and the more time you have, the more precise can you work. I mean, on Age of Innocence, for sure, I needed a lot of time sometimes, but we had the time and we had the money to do it. So then you need to light a ballroom scene like that needs a lot of preparation and a lot of work to do that. So it was, after a while, it was not the speed anymore. It was just the being prepared in a way and thinking ahead. And also it was always the respect. And I mentioned that over and over again. It was respect for the director, respect for the actors, and that helped a lot. Maybe I can describe it on a special shot from Goodfellas. There's this shot that goes into the Copacabana, which I was fascinated when I was reading the script and saw the concept for this from Martin Scorsese. And it was not the technical difficulty of it that fascinated me, but fascinated the way that you couldn't express what this guy did with this shot to a girl with a dialogue. It was just, he was doing something that was much better than words. And this is for me the most wonderful example for images that can tell a story. And so it was a lot of fun to do this shot. It was complicated for sure. It was very complicated. I had a brilliant Steadicam operator who did the shot, and we were well prepared. Again, it was pre-lit, it was pre-rehearsed. I rehearsed it without the actors, with a small video camera. The most important part, or the most difficult part, was that it starts outside. And I wanted to have a little light outside, that I don't have to light the whole street. So I just was lucky that I got this moment that you can still see outside when he puts his car key into the hand of this guy. And then going through this dark tunnel was good. It was, it was a little mysterious. And going to the kitchen was was 2 stops over. And then going to the Copa was dark. And all these things was very exciting and interesting. The most complicated part was that Marty had a very specific moment when this table was coming in. And it has to be really the right moment when this table was flying into the frame and then come to in front of the stage and would be put down. And so we did it a couple of times and it worked great. And then we had one take that was especially good. And then Henny Youngman came on stage and he forgot his line. And we were desperate because he had done this line 1 million times and he